What's up, guys? This is Ray. Welcome to Asian Feminist, and today we're going to talk about the 2018 Japanese film Liverleaf, directed by Naito Eisuke and starring Yamada Anna, and is based off of a manga which admittedly I have not read, and I actually watched Liverleaf by renting the DVD at my local DVD store. And when I remember when this movie first came out in the theater, I actually didn't watch it in the theater. I skipped over it and instead decided on watching something else. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what I watched, but I saw the poster and it looked intriguing enough. But I think it's a nice and simple poster, but I thought it looked intriguing to say the least. But so needless to say, going in and popping the DVD in and starting the movie up, I had no idea what to expect. And boy, was I surprised, in a pleasant way. So the story of Liverleaf, it's about this junior high school girl by the name of Nozaki. And she moves from Tokyo to this very small rural town. It's a very small population, but pretty much all her classmates are childhood friends. So she's kind of an outsider, kind of a transplant. And, she is met with constant bullying to an obscene level. Like she gets kicked around, the bullies carve crude messages onto her desk. And life is a living hell for her. And the only person who makes friends with her is this boy by the name of Aiba, who also happens to be from out of town. And Aiba is the only person who sticks up for Nozaki, even in front of class to the teacher, but the teacher doesn't seem to want to do anything about the bullying. So this establishes a connection between the two. So one day they go on a date, and when they come back, they're met with a sudden surprise when they see that Nozaki's house is set ablaze. Her house is on fire, and what happens is that her parents get killed in the fire, and her younger sister gets, she survives, but she gets burnt to the point where she's in critical condition. So Nozaki is stricken with grief for a little bit and moves in with her grandfather. And after a little while, she returns to school. But then when she returns to school, the bullies continue what they were doing before. They're pretty relentless. But it's at this point that Nozaki just enacts her plan of revenge amongst these bullies. So I knew this movie was a revenge story of sorts, but I didn't realize to what degree. But diving into the positives, this movie is dark. It's a very dark story. It's twisted. I think every character that inhabits the story has something going wrong up there. And I dig every moment of it. Like at first with this scene when the house is on fire and you see the younger sister get pulled out of the fire. It's kind of unsettling at first, like, oh, okay, all right. And then comes the first scene of violence and it's like, oh, we're in for this kind of movie, all right. And then, it's time to make some more popcorn because things are about to get real. And when it came to the subject matter, when it came to the bullying, I thought at first it felt very over the top, felt very excessive, like, dang, Nozaki just couldn't catch a break. But then kind of just thinking back and realizing how bad some of these actual cases of bullying happen in Japan, I kind of feel it wasn't so far from the truth the way things were portrayed in this movie. Well, not far from the truth of some of these extreme cases. And it just genuinely made me feel sad, fearful of, how kids can be. And when it comes to the violence, I think that definitely can be seen as a bit too excessive. But I mean, I dug it. I think I've been desensitized to violence somewhere a few years back. So for me, it didn't exactly make me feel uncomfortable. It just surprised the hell out of me. But I think if you're a viewer who's not expecting the kind of violence that is featured in this, yeah, it might not be for you. I mean, just to kind of give a little taste of what to expect, there's a lot of sharp objects going into human body parts. There are a lot of blunt objects crushing them at the same time. Yeah, it's really brutal. And I think what made it brutal is that during some scenes, it feels like they sped up the actions of some of these characters as they're carrying out what they're doing. And on top of that, the movie takes place during the snowy winter. And needless to say, that white snow doesn't stay white for that long. And the movie just keeps you in its cloud of misery. As I mentioned earlier, I think all the characters, save for Nozaki and her family, all have something kind of strange or unsettling going on in the mind of theirs. And the movie doesn't derail from that kind of atmosphere. It keeps you there. And I dig it. I like these kinds of movies that keep you in the weird and dark place. And this movie definitely does that. And when it comes to the characters of Liverleaf, I thought they were like the main characters at least. They were likable and charming in their own way. Like Nozaki, she's kind of like this shy and soft-spoken girl, the kind you can easily feel sympathetic towards, especially when she's the target of bullying. And you have Aiba, who sticks up for her. He's kind of like Mr. Knight in shining armor. He just wants to stick up for her because he feels sorry for Nozaki, as anyone else would be. And some of these other supporting characters, they definitely do tend to feel a bit over the top, but then you just have to remember these characters are lifted from a manga where those kinds of characters are quite the norm. So I think once you kind of remember that, it's kind of acceptable to accept how over the top some of these other characters are. And obviously all of the students are played by young actors, and I think each one of these actors are kind of like in their immature stages as far as their acting ability is concerned. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It did kind of give a more realistic, a more youthful feeling. Their immaturity kind of has its own level of charm, especially with the way these characters are written and the way these characters' stories carry out. As far as the negatives are concerned about Liverleaf, I thought the motivations for some of the bullies are a bit either cliched or just straight up unexplained. Some of these characters, they just kind of follow the pack too. They don't really have a reason for bullying. They just kind of follow their friends along. And these characters are just straight up pure chaotic evil. I think the only bully who kind of has a more realistic kind of story arc is the leader of the bullies. And she kind of goes through a small redemption arc. But I think everyone else who tags along, they're pretty typical as far as their motivation goes. I think, it's kind of half and half with me. And something I thought that was funny that happens periodically throughout the story, I think I want to say at least 3 times, is that there are times when Nozaki gets pinned down by a bully and she's about to get hurt. But then you see her hand just kind of move along the ground, kind of beside her, usually under a pile of snow. And then she pulls out like a weapon that ultimately saves her from peril. And, the first time was okay. It's like, it's like, okay, you knew something was going to happen that would enable her to escape that situation. But then at the second time, it's like, all right, okay. And then you get up to the third time, then I just think it just gets kind of ridiculous and almost comedic at that point. But at the same time, whenever it does happen, I can't help but feel excited for it because those are generally exciting scenes. But I thought, the life-saving hand where she slides away from the view of the attacker, I just thought it got kind of ridiculous after a bit. There are also some times when someone gets ridiculously damaged and you think, okay, they're dead, they're out. But for some reason they survive a much longer time than what you would expect. It's like, I don't know how you survive that, but all right, I guess it's good for drama, good for tension, but I don't think you should be able to survive that, but it happens. There's also 1 or 2 moments where a character would, experience, I wouldn't say an unnecessary death, but it probably was an avoidable death. There's one scene involving a snow cleaner, which you probably get a glimpse of in the trailer, but this character just kind of falls in front of the snow cleaner, and the snow cleaner is just going extremely slow. Like, think that one scene in Deadpool when he's in the skating rink, it was that slow. And she just kind of stays there. And, there's a driver in the snow cleaner who obviously can see this person fall in front of them, but the driver doesn't stop and just keeps going. And it's like, I think that death could have been totally avoided, but, I guess for the purpose of keeping the level of violence and the level of surprise up, it just had to be included. So overall, what did I think of Liverleaf? Well, it's a dark and miserable film with depressing subject matter. There's nothing happy at all when it comes to the events of this story. There might be a bit of satisfaction during the scenes of revenge, but as far as the central theme of the story, which is bullying, there's nothing happy about it at all. So don't expect to watch this movie and come out of it feeling happy that you get a happy ending, because you might come out of it feeling a bit sad a bit fearful of bullies, just a bit more, just not in a pleasant mood. But despite this movie being extremely dark, I mean, after all, it's about junior high school kids trying to kill each other in the most violent ways possible, and some of these scenes do get quite squeamish. I genuinely liked it. Granted, I don't know how well it matches with the original manga, so you guys can let me know how it does in the comment section below. But despite not knowing how it matches, I was extremely entertained with this movie. I like movies that take you in a dark place, that go in a dark direction. This movie definitely does that. As I said before, don't expect to watch this movie expecting a happy ending, but I'm pretty sure if you decide to watch this movie, you probably know what you're getting yourself into. Yes, those are my thoughts on Liverleaf. Please let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. And if you really dig my content, please know you can support Asian Films via Patreon from as little as $1. And yeah, that's about it for me, guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you all again in the next video. Take it easy.